Hello and welcome back to Universal Class. In this lesson we're going to go over navigating Excel 2013. Learning how to navigate around Excel is critical to being able to successfully use the program. In this lesson we're going to focus on the major elements of Excel 2013 and take a few minutes to become familiar with their purposes. If you have access to Excel 2013, you should open up a blank spreadsheet at this time. So we're going to here we are at the Excel start screen, and we're going to select a blank workbook here. Now we're going to go over understanding the basic elements of an Excel spreadsheet. Before going any further in this course, it's important to understand the elements of a spreadsheet. A spreadsheet is made up of individual cells. One cell is simply a block on your screen. So right here, A1 is a cell. This is a cell. This is a cell. All these little squares here that you see are all cells. When you click on a cell, it's highlighted. You can see the green box around the cell, and that means that's the active cell that we're on. Now, the cell that we are highlighting is called the active cell. In other words, we click on it with our mouse and it makes it active so that we can enter data into it. Now, all of these cells in a worksheet are organized in columns and rows. In Excel, rows are represented by numbers. Columns are represented by letters. So these are rows, and this would be row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4, row 5, and so forth. So these are all rows, and they span across. Columns, which go up and down, are represented by letters. So this is column A, column B, column C, column D, column E. So to recap, rows are numbered and they run along horizontally. Columns are vertical and they have letters. Since rows and columns are labeled with numbers and letters respectively, you can also locate the exact coordinates of a cell. For example, instead of your boss coming to you and telling you the number for March's expenses for employee Susie Smith are wrong, he can simply say, recheck the number in D15. This would tell you to go to column D, row 15. So let's do that. This is column D, and we want to go down to row 15. So as we can see here in this box, it's telling us that the active cell is D15, which is correct. It's column D, which intersects with row 15, D15. That's how we manually find it. Let's say we didn't want to actually have to go through the grid process and, look down 15 rows to find it. What we can do is use this name box, which is right here, and we could go directly to any cell by typing in that cell. So we could go to A1, we hit enter, and that's the active cell. We could go to B5, hit enter, and we're at B5. And of course we can go to D15, hit enter, and we're at that cell. The formula bar. The formula bar is a magical ingredient of the soup, so to speak. It is what makes Excel easier to use than doing spreadsheets by hand or using other programs where you're left to do the math by yourself. In this course, you'll learn how to enter formulas and equations into Excel 2013. The formulas and equations that you enter will be entered in and displayed in this formula bar, which is right here. This is the formula bar. It is located to the right of the name box. So we have the name box, and then we have the formula bar. On the left side of the formula bar are the formula bar buttons, which are right here. The insert function button is the FX, right there. When you start making or editing a cell entry, X, which is right here, is cancel, and the check mark right here is enter. The white area or bar, which is right here, to the right of the buttons, is the cell contents area. The formula bar always shows you the contents of a cell, even if it doesn't appear in the cell. In other words, it shows equations in the cell even if the cell only displays the answer to the equation. It will show contents of cells that appear to be blank in the spreadsheet as well. If the cell content area is blank, you know the cell is empty. So basically, I'm going to go to some random cell here, and I'm going to go to, let's say, C9. All right. Now, I can type stuff into the cell, right? And notice that it shows everything that's in the cell into this formula bar up here. So as you can see, everything you type shows up here. Now I can also do other things. So this is a little bit advanced, but we could do something like 1 and 2. And then we could say that we could make a formula here that says C7. It could just be like C7 plus D7. All right, so what we have here is we have an equation here that's adding, which you don't need to know just yet, we're adding C7 cell to D7 cell to get a result of 3. And we could actually change this with other numbers. We could do 5 and 5, and that equals 10. Now here in the active cell, we see 10, which is the result of our formula or our equation. But if we look up at the formula bar, it's actually showing us what the formula is for that cell. It's not showing us the result, it's showing us the formula. Here, again, if you click on the cell or just look at the spreadsheet, it shows you the result of an equation. But the actual formula being used is shown in the formula bar. The Backstage Area. The Backstage Area is located under the green File tab at the upper left-hand corner of the Excel window. If you click on it, this is what you'll see. So let's click on that. There we go. Using the Backstage Area, you can open an existing worksheet, create a new worksheet, or either from a blank worksheet or a template. You can save workbooks and spreadsheets, share workbooks and spreadsheets, print, close, and set options for the Excel program. So here we have info, so we can do a protect workbook, inspect workbook, versions, browser view options, some of the properties. Click here for a new workbook from a blank workbook or a template. We can open existing workbook, either from our recent workbooks we've been working on, or from our SkyDrive, or from our local computer. We can save. It's actually going right to save as, since we haven't saved this yet, and we have options to save on our SkyDrive, on our local computer, etc. We can print. These are the print options. We can share, export, close, which immediately closes it. Go back to File, and we can go to Account. This is our account options and specific options for Excel 2013 to change the general settings of Excel. Now, let's go over the features of the Quick Access Toolbar. The Quick Access Toolbar is located at the top left of the Excel window, and it looks like this. So it's right up here. The Quick Access Toolbar is very useful because it has shortcuts of commands that you use frequently. By default, the Quick Access Toolbar displays these shortcuts. The Save shortcut, which you can imagine is pretty useful, the Undo shortcut, the Redo shortcut, and there's also a Print Preview option, which is right here. You can customize the Quick Access Toolbar and add shortcuts so the tools you need appear there for easy access. And you can quickly add icons here using some of what they suggest. Also, you can go to more commands, which allows you to add and remove what types of commands, icons, that you can use for the Quick Access Toolbar. There's one other thing we can go through if we're going to really customize these shortcut items here. So for the Quick Access Toolbar, let's see if you can see this. Let's say that Save should be first, but I like New, this New icon. Let's just move this over here. I like this to be first, and then Save. And then I like Undo, Redo, and I don't want touch mouse mode there anymore. And I want print preview actually to be next to save. So you can use this to actually customize the location of the icons within the quick access toolbar. So we click on OK, and as you can see, they've all magically arranged to exactly my preferred order. Moving around worksheets. Being able to navigate through a worksheet will make using Excel a lot easier. However, before we discuss that, let's quickly review 3 things you have to know about the worksheet area. Remember, the worksheet area contains cells, rows, and columns. The cell cursor is the dark green border that appears around a cell. It means a cell is active. The location of the cell or address appears in the name box. So right now we're at D4. The cell's row number and column letter are shaded. We have the 4 shaded and we have the D shaded. Now, since Excel worksheet contains so many cells, rows, and columns, not all of the cells are going to be displayed at once on the screen. For that reason, there are several ways you can use your mouse cursor to move through and navigate your worksheet. Of course, if the cell is displayed, you can simply click on it to make it active. If you're using a touch screen, of course, you would just tap on the cell. You can also type the coordinates in the name box and be taken to the cell, which we showed earlier. There's also a keyboard shortcut which you can use, which is F5, and this opens up the Go To dialog box. So I'm going to hit F5 on the keyboard. And like the name box, all you have to do is type the address of the cell in the reference box. So if you want to go to, again, D15, you type in D15 and you hit enter. For those of you that are really proficient with the keyboard and find that the mouse slows you down, hitting F5 and then going to any cell that way really can save you a lot of time rather than taking your hands off the keyboard, using your mouse to then click into the name box. So F5 is a very useful, quick shortcut. And on the keyboard, there's a few things that can happen. Right now, I'm using the arrow keys to move the active box, to move to the active cell. Also, when you're entering data, if you hit enter, that pretty much completes the data and sends you down to the next cell directly beneath it. If I'm entering data and I'm finished with this cell and I want to move to the next cell to the right, I use tab on the keyboard. Now, if you want to return to the cell directly to the left of your currently active cell, you could do Shift Tab, and that will move you to the left. So Tab will move your active cell to the right, and Shift Tab will move your active cell to the left. Enter will move your active cell directly to the bottom cell, like that. And Shift Enter will move your active cell to the adjacent top cell. So Shift Enter does that. There's also a lot of other keyboard shortcuts that are listed in the lesson, which are very useful, and you should definitely try all of these keyboard shortcuts to get familiar with them. They can save you a lot of time. One last thing we'd like to go over in this lesson is the status bar. So we have the in ready mode, we have here the normal view, the page layout view, the page break preview. We also have the zoom, which we went over earlier, and the zoom level that it's currently at. You can also customize what is shown on your status bar, and you do that by right-clicking on your status bar, and then you can select what you want to see. Like we can turn on or off the num lock and the caps lock features here, and this will tell you now whether or not the caps lock is on and whether or not your num lock is on. We don't necessarily need those on. So it can be helpful in showing you like, oh, I'm in overtype mode, I have caps lock on, this sort of thing, which can be useful depending on how you use Excel.